Today, all of us are deeply saddened by the horrific events that occurred Tuesday in Jersey City, resulting in the loss of 6 lives, additional injuries, and the devastation of friends, families, and community members, including the Jewish community that appears to have been targeted by anti-Semitic terrorists. We condemn these hateful and violent acts, and we stand in solidarity with all affected persons and communities. Please join me in a moment of silence for all the victims of this tragic incident. Thank you. I want to thank Michael Verlies for suggesting this town hall meeting. I know he's here. Where's Michael? Thank you, Michael. We want to use this as an opportunity to do a number of things. We want to discuss how we monitor the situation on Tuesday. I know there's a lot of concern about that, and I want to have an open discussion about that. How we assess campus safety, how we communicated with one another, and what we can learn from this incident for future improvement. And I think we all hope we'll never have another incident like this, but God forbid if we do, we want to be prepared and learn from this experience. And very importantly, in addition to that, we also want to discuss a range of services that are available to affected students, employees, and community members, and we want to hear the perspectives of all who wish to share. We want to answer questions, respond to concerns, and have just a very open, honest discussion. I'd like to begin by asking Executive Director of Campus Safety and Security, Jack Woodbury, to share with you how he and his team were monitoring Tuesday's events and assessing the safety of our campus. And then I just thought it would be helpful to have that sort of baseline, and then we'll open the meeting to discussion about lessons learned. Jack.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. For some of you that don't know me, let me explain a little bit of my background so you understand my perspective and where I come from and the decision-making process that goes on. I spent 30 years in the New Jersey State Police, both in uniform and as a detective. I served on a tactical unit, and I was a hostage negotiator. In many situations like this with a barricaded suspect, I was either a technical advisor or liaison to the local police department or the actual incident commander at that. So I'm aware of the resources, the strategy, the tactics, the capabilities of the police department, and all the various likely outcomes. Okay, so I look at it from a vast amount of experience and training, rather than just having an emotional reaction to it. Okay, so we became aware of the situation, me, myself, and my team, and we were monitoring it the entire time, talking to the college senior leadership, and we used a variety of sources, various news outlets, apps, radio scanners, personal contacts we have within the police department, the sheriff's department. We were talking to the Office of Emergency Management. We were talking to our sister colleges in the area. We were consulting with the Board of Education. Okay, having grown up in Jersey City, I'm very familiar with the geography of Jersey City. Okay, and in our estimation, once that situation was contained, there was no threat to the college. The police response to that area was immediate, and it was overwhelming. All right. So the decision was also made that a lot of people will say, well, why didn't we lock down the college? Well, that creates a lot of problems. When we look at locking down the college, we're not letting anybody out, we're not letting anybody in. Okay? So if there's a real threat on the street in the Journal Square area, we're locking our students and staff and faculty out, leaving there rather than letting them into a presumably safer place. Okay? We're also telling you that you can't leave, regardless of whether you've got to go pick up medication at CVS, pick up your kids from daycare, got to get to a second job, etc. Okay? And just putting a lockdown in place because it may make somebody feel good creates a lot of angst for everybody else, because the people that aren't here, family, relatives, or whatever, now hear this school's on lockdown. Okay, and that creates that just creates a lot of turmoil. Okay, St. Peter's College chose not to go on lockdown, and they were closer to the incident than we were, okay? New Jersey City University did, but they were in much closer proximity to where the event was. So that's what, that was the rationale behind what we did and why we did, okay? And I confirmed today with Dr. Reber, had there been a credible threat to our campus or any part of our campus, I would have acted independently to lock down this campus or to lock down a particular building or take whatever actions I thought was necessary for the safety of our community. I understand people have a lot of different levels of anxiety, okay? And we can't address every one of those. We were flooded with calls from students, calls, emails, people coming by the office asking what happened. We addressed those to the best that we could. I mean, we're talking about a level of anxiety. Mr. Burns, my manager, this happened a few doors down from his house. His neighborhood is still an armed campment between police and reporters. His daughter is in one of the local schools and was locked down till 5 o'clock at night. But he stayed focused on this community and making sure that we were safe. Mr. Giuliano was in constant contact with his various sources in the sheriff's department and the police department. So perhaps we could have got the word out earlier that we were on it. That's something that's a lesson learned, but there was never a threat at this campus. And I'll be happy to answer questions or
We'll definitely call on Jack to answer questions. So the first thing that I just did want to start with and underscore is I think we can feel very good about the fact that we have very seasoned leadership in the area of safety and security. For the reasons Jack mentioned, we have a very strong team. We have 24/7 surveillance at every building entrance when buildings are open, as you know, and they have direct access to the police. And you wanted to use this opportunity to just underscore, if ever there is a concern about an imminent danger to this campus, you can rest assured we are going to get that out immediately. Now, having said all that, you know, in hindsight, I wish we had gotten communication out sooner, so I want to have that discussion. It was a perfect storm, and it's not an excuse. It's just, I want you to know, just coincidentally, Eric was at a conference out of town. Jen, Christopher, and I were in a podcast taping for much of the afternoon, which does not excuse, you know, not getting a message out at the appropriate time. We were trying to get the facts for the message. So it was too late in getting out, and I will take personal responsibility for that. And one of the things that we'll be discussing in a cabinet meeting next week is trying to double up and ensure that the whole leadership team is on the same page and understands that each of us has a role. So regardless of where I am or Eric is or anyone is, there will be action and communication as soon as possible. But I do think it was more about communication than safety. But having said all that, I want to open this now for questions, comments, concerns, suggestions. Yes, thank you.
Why were security...
We have mics. If you could wait for that, because we're also taping this.
Yes, hello. My name is Angela Aber. I'm a professor in English. It is my understanding, and this is anecdotal, but still worthy of note, that the security guards stationed at buildings that I frequent and to whom I spoke with yesterday received no notice from their supervisors or others about the status of what the incident meant for the college. And that caused a great deal of anxiety as many students who actually came straight from that very frightening situation literally made it out of the war zone to our campus then are wondering what the status is on a person who, or two individuals who seem to be moving from one area to the next. And unfortunately, our incredibly dedicated and wonderful security guards could not inform us of any information, and sometimes took it upon themselves to decide how to handle the door and what to do exactly regarding safety. And I think the question mark that it raised for them and for all of us was one which caused a great deal of stress. I had students who were in the middle of taking exams who were worried about siblings and about children who were on lockdown, who were constantly checking their HCC email, even though, they shouldn't, and I'm like, don't look, I'll take charge of that, for word from the college. And without word, that is a cause for so much more stress than was necessary. And that's all I have to say.
Okay, Jack, can you speak to that?
Well, to address the communication issue from the college, I think we already spoke to that, and I think we all admit that we could do better on that. As far as communication amongst the security guards, I will certainly look at that. You have to understand we basically have two groups here. We have the in-house public safety people, and then we have the outsourced guards. In-house public safety, we were talking to senior management at the college, monitoring the situation. I was speaking to the captain of the outsourced guards. He was aware if there was a breakdown in some of that information getting filtered out, we will examine that. We double our efforts to make sure that doesn't happen. As far as knowing what the lockdown procedures are, had that order been given, the guards are trained on it, and we would have overseen that.
But I think that's helpful feedback that we are going to note as we plan for the future in terms of what we learn. We want to make sure all the folks in every building were constantly informed.
To tell you the truth, I had to do, and a lot of faculty had to do emotional, triage. And that was another area that really needed more support and more people on board.
Yeah, and that's something we're going to be talking about going forward because we're very much working on that. Other comments? Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Mario. I'm actually speaking as someone who in high school attended a school that had an active shooter and had one of our faculty members unfortunately killed by someone who came onto campus. And so my experience in dealing with something like that, obviously I'm a little desensitized because I've been through so many similar events, but in the process of that, when police were going through and trying to clear our high school, they found that many of these faculty and students and so on were uncooperative with police because they were not familiar with the police, they were not sure who they were, they didn't have any experience with them, never seen them before, all they saw was someone with a weapon at their door and were not cooperating. And after that event, the school began working with the police department, doing active training, training for active shooters on weekends and so on, doing events with the local police departments in order to help familiarize the community with the officers that would be responding, that would be protecting us in those incidents. So my question is, does the college do anything of this sort, and do they have any plans to sort of organize any trainings at all?
Thank you.
Well, one of the things that we're working on, we're working with we have to start at the ground, okay? So one of the things we're working with right now is we're working with the Office of Homeland Security, okay? And they're looking at our procedures and our protocols, and it's called a gap analysis, okay? So they're gonna look and see if we have a gap here or if there's an opportunity for improvement, etc. Once we get that gap analysis back, then we'll look to see what it is we can do, okay? Obviously, right now is not the time to ask Jersey City to come over and practice. And quite frankly, Jersey City's got way too many officers, that, you know, all of a sudden we're gonna have a recognition, oh, this guy's a policeman or not. But it's a very good point. Some of the things that we have in place, and I know I mentioned it to people, and they're unaware. I mean, I see a great deal of active shooter cards, people wearing with their IDs, that's great, please. We have an online training, it's called Alice, that specifically for active shooters. We provided the Jersey City Police Department and Union City from North Hudson floor plans of all our buildings, so that they have the response. That's already been uploaded onto their computer-aided dispatch system, so they can see it in their cars. Plus, we have physical copies at every desk. We've also undertaken Project Greenlock. Some of you may or may not be aware of that, where we've identified rooms that are inherently more safe than other rooms. We can't guarantee that every room is safe because there's just too many myriad of situations, but we've identified those rooms by placing a green padlock over it. Okay, so I'm not sure if everybody's aware of that. It's on our portal. It was announced through communications, but you know, we have to work with our existing architecture. But please familiarize yourself with that.
So hopefully you carry this active shooter card. If not, if they need to get one.
If you need an active shooter card, you can pick one up at any security desk. You can come to my office or the command post in the basement of the library, and we'll be more than happy with you.
So, and it has the basic principles. I think we need to do active shooter training. In my last presidency, we did. And so I think we will do that. Now, one of the things, and do it periodically, one of the things that I have been having some discussions about, though I think this brings it to a new sense of urgency, is could we find a way to provide active shooter training, not just active shooter, but you know, how to handle an emergency, training for all of our students when they arrive. And you know, the way we did this at my last institution was we embedded a section in our student success course that actually was a videotaped presentation that had, you know, that actually had visual pictures of places on campus and talked about, you know, how to protect yourself. And it was shown with a police officer who then could entertain questions. That's just one possible strategy, but I think we're going to want to have a college-wide conversation about how we can get to the next level in terms of preparedness. Coincidentally, we have been, as I think many of you know, we've been working with several consultants, one of whom, Dr. Brian Van Brunt, is actually someone we have engaged to meet and interact with the whole college community and help us get to the next level of understanding and of services and of procedures to respond to any individuals in distress, any behaviors that cause concern, and events. And yesterday, coincidentally, he was doing training all day here for a group of individuals that have stepped forward and are willing to be part of a new team we're putting together called the HELP team. And this is going to be a team that's well trained and that is broadly representative of our campus community, and that will also engage in periodic training and professional development, and they will have protocols for responding to specific issues in a very timely basis, meeting and convening immediately upon information that comes to our attention. And so that's just another maybe piece of the puzzle in terms of how we prepare for the future. Michael.
Thank you. I come from an Italian family, so we. Yeah, I called you, Chris, because of all the emails, text messages, and phone calls I received, which were filled with anxiety, confusion, and stuff. I was home and I was just, keeping abreast on the media. When I called you, I think you were a little surprised of our own sort of anxiety about it, but you were very responsive and you held this, and I thank you for that very much. I just want to raise a point. I don't know much about whether there should be lockdown or not lockdown. I think a very important issue for us is that we have amorphous spaces here, borders. Many of our faculty teach at JCU in these areas are moving back and forth. So are our students. We have, I don't know how many, 600 some odd adjunct faculty, I don't know if any adjunct faculty are here, and they're moving back and forth. I think because of that, communication is absolutely essential. It may not be a lockdown situation, but maybe a situation where faculty who are going to go in that area, or students who are traveling that area, may need and want to stay at our school, or vice versa, whatever that is. So I think that communication, which in the past has been lacking. I mean, I had an experience last time when there was someone who was going to NJ's North Hudson Center, and I came out of my class in the L building. There was nobody in the building. I didn't know that. My students know because I happened to turn off their cell phones. And the other students had left, and teachers had left because their parents had been calling them, but we had no information from security, nothing like that. That was very unsettling. So I think, like I said, I don't know about lockdown issues and things like that. You have the expertise in that. I think it's more about the information, where do we go, how do we deal with stopping the kind of moving back and forth when necessary.
Yeah, and now let me say, the only reason I was concerned, Michael called me first thing yesterday morning, and I knew that we had been sending out messages and had talked about that. In fact, Nicholas Chevroletti, is Nicholas here? He was going to be. He actually modeled some of our messaging off of what your St. Peter's was doing. So I was aware of that we had sent things out. What you raised my awareness of is it hadn't gone out early enough. That's so ideally we would be, from the moment something like this came to our attention, we would be at least communicating, hey, we're on this. We are. If there's going to be any evidence of imminent danger, we will let you know. In the meantime, whatever. And then just do a periodic update.
If I can just add to that, I'm sorry. I mean, even with those messages coming out, albeit late, the messages were, I think, a little too reassuring. Everything's okay, don't worry about it. I think maybe other people need to speak about it. I don't think that's what we really want to hear. I mean, it's okay if they really are safe, but everything was so uncertain. Information is really kind of vital, I think, to give people a sense of, okay, I can stay here, no, I should not stay here, or something like that. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah. I really need a mic.
Well, you're on, we're taping for others, so
Sure.
If you wouldn't mind.
Price is right.
Hi, my name is Brian Lucian. I'm a student here. My question pertaining to the resources that we have in place. Do you feel like we have the resources and the people to control the situation if there was an active shooter in this area? Because our campus is so widespread, do you really feel like we have this situation under control, and what procedures are in place on your end when something would occur?
I think, to be very honest, you probably never feel that you have everything you need, particularly because what's so heinous about these kinds of events is you don't know what's going to happen until it happens, and you can't plan for every eventuality. But what I think, and we want to assess where we are and continue to improve upon that. When we hired Jack, we did that very intentionally to make sure we had the kind of experience, leadership skill set we needed to continue to enhance the safety of the campus. What I think we have going for us, and I say this in part from my experience at other post-secondary institutions, albeit none in an urban environment like this, the fact that we have security guards at every entrance who have immediate access to the police who are nearby is really good. I mean, in every other institution I've been in, you can walk in a building. Higher ed doesn't behave in this way like K through 12 because you can't. You've got people constantly coming and going. But so I think that's going to be really important. And this isn't my area of expertise. We'll be looking to Jack and others to continue to lead. We will probably want to do more and more training with our security force, the frontline folks, just as part of the overall work we're doing with the consultant and others to make sure they have all the resources and skill sets they need to be the first responders. That's now in terms of other resources, and this may segue into talking about how we can support victims and those affected directly. We know, and this is a national phenomenon, if any of you have been reading about Roman recently, every college campus has a significant set of concerns with respect to mental health, with respect to social services and issues, and that needs to be an important part of what we're doing, looking at the whole picture here. And so we've hired another consultant, Simone Hayward, that's helping us look at all of the accessibility needs here, and part of that is going to be recommendations for additional staffing, mental health counselors, social workers. We're probably going to be hiring a new chief disabilities officer, and so we're being very proactive about assessing right now where we have gaps, and we do expect to be hiring some more talent that can help in these situations. And I have in my family some significant mental health concerns, and so anyone that has experienced that knows these things are all intertwined. And so part of what we're doing is creating something called Hudson Helps under Lisa Dougherty's leadership and others, where we're going to be having a one-stop area. As soon as the student center opens, we'll be able to create this on the third floor of 76, where we will actually have mental health counselors, social workers. We've just signed an agreement with NYU to bring their master's level MSW students here for internships, and they'll be in this area, in addition to all kinds of other services. So this is going to be a work in progress, and we really do want everybody's perspectives and ideas.
Hi.
Doreen, that's a brief.
Sorry.
So Doreen is now. Here's another example of that. So Lisa and her team hired Doreen recently.
I'm Doreen Pontus,
provide
I'm the
leadership.
Associate Director of Counseling and Wellness. I will not be over by Hudson Helps. I will still remain on the advisement floor with another counselor, and I will be supervising the student interns that will be placed over in Hudson Helps, but we will also have student clinicians over also by me as well.
Yeah.
So it is separate. If you go to the web page right now, I spent the day uploading documents to provide support for talking with your kids about dealing with community violence, how to respond to it, how to respond to your own anxiety and your own feelings. So take a peek at it. If not, if you want to speak to me in person, just give me a call and we will make an appointment. Okay?
Doreen, you're MSW, right?
I'm a licensed clinical social worker, so I'm the highest level of a clinicianal level. Dr. Downen, same as her, so. Okay. I think this gentleman has been raising his hand.
Hi, my name is Christian Manager. It's my first semester here. I'm a new student. I'm kind of new to college, and it's been a process. When I heard about the event, there was like the communication concern. It was something that it was something that I was terrified by because my sister, she had class that day, and I told her not to go because I still haven't received an email to this day about the situation. Like, I just checked my email a couple minutes ago again, and there's the communication. As a new student, I feel, when I'm sitting in the library sometimes, I feel unsafe because there's been so many shootings across this country. And the cards help, but it's also like, what do we do? And it's really heartbreaking because I don't want to have that fear. I want to be able to study for my speech final. I want to be able to do my work. But I sit there and I worry about the people around me, and it's heartbreaking.
Thank you for sharing. Warren, and then
Okay.
Hi everyone, my name is Warren. I am the president for Student Government Association. I think one of my biggest concerns is that yes, the cards are great. There needs to be more training, and it's not from just a staff perspective. We have a lot of student leaders on campus. They need to be a part of those conversations. And the other thing, the lock on top of the doors, they're great, but no one knows about them. Not one person understands what that means. They say, oh, it's a sticker, but they don't actually understand what it means. And I think that we need to improve those policies and procedures to really represent all of those pieces so that students do. And if it's on the portal, that's awesome. But it needs to be a continued conversation that has to happen. We continuously see school shootings happening on institutions, and we're not prepared in any accord. And from a student's perspective, I think that that's very scary, especially for the fact that we are in a very urban institution. It surrounds us. We don't necessarily know what's going to happen on a day-to-day basis, and we want to be in a place that we feel safe. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
I do know that she's been holding her hand up for a very long time, and I want to make sure that she has an opportunity to speak up.
Hi, my name is Jennifer. I'm the president of the Students Against Ableism. So, yeah, as he says, the cards are great, but we don't know what's going to happen during that time. And about when people, you said there are different levels of anxiety. Yes, but what happens to, sorry. Like, what about those people who have some mental health issues? Like, what about those people that in those current situations, what if they have a panic attack or anything of that sort? Like, what are you guys are going to do in those type of situations? Because, as communication is lacking, and that can trigger those type of panic attacks or anything of the sort. And there are shootings across America, and we're not even prepared. We're in an urban community, and as a person from an urban community, another urban community that usually sees police everywhere 24/7. It's like, sure, the cards are great, but like from the law perspective, but what about the medical perspective?
Thank you. Lisa, can I ask you maybe to speak to some of the services that we're working on and that we offer? Maybe Sheila also.
So Sheila's at a professional development day today, which is good. So Doreen, as she introduced herself, is available for students, faculty, and staff really who have needs, but I'll actually turn it over to Vivian and or Anna in a moment for that. For students, they can go on to the portal, they can call Doreen directly, they can email mentalhealthcounseling@hccc.edu, and she is available on both campuses. We also have Marie Mahood, who is part of her role is mental health counseling. So they are available certainly if you have any students who are in any type of distress or want to talk through the events of Tuesday. I did just email to the PEC before we came here a great document that Doreen found, and I thank her for being such a source of wonderful resources for talking with children about violence. So if you have yourselves or faculty, staff, or students that had children that were in lockdown yesterday, certainly that, and I'm sorry, 2 days ago, that is very traumatic. And with the Hudson Helps Resource Center, we have on the portal now actually a place where you can refer a student. So on the mental health counseling site, there's a referral form. So if you have a student that you just feel needs to talk with someone or just has some behavior that is concerning, please refer them to Doreen, and she will reach out to them proactively to speak with them. So if you know that a student was impacted on Tuesday and they may not self-identify, please just send her the name and ID number and she will take it from there. So we really want to make that very public. When we do launch this official health care team, we will be meeting bi-weekly to talk, and more if needed, to talk about students of concern. So we're going to have one place where you can refer any type of issue. So if it's someone who a mental health concern, or if you have a student that has behavior that you're concerned with, it's a one place where you refer them, and this care team will meet bi-weekly to assess. We had a wonderful training yesterday with Dr. Van Brunt, where he walked us through a rubric of assessing behaviors from low risk to high risk, and both emotional behaviors as well as behaviors of violent behaviors. So in some cases, students, the case studies we did exhibited both. In some cases, it was one or the other. So it's really a very, for someone who's not a professional clinician, mental health clinician, it's really a way that anyone could just observe behaviors and see where they are on the scale. And then it recommends interventions. So it's really a wonderful way. He's nationally renowned, by the way, for his work and his team. He's associated with NVIDIA and the NetChurn group. So we will be meeting starting after the new year with this team on a regular basis. And then the Hudson Helps Resource Center, you can direct students there anytime for any reason. And even if, for example, Doreen's on the second floor or there's not someone there specifically to address that need, that will be the one-stop shop where these case managers will be able to do an intake, assess, and figure out whether we can help them internally or externally to community resources. So we're really, with the support of Dr. Reber and the college leadership, really taking this on very seriously. And like he said, with the consultants have recommended additional staff, so that was very, I think we all knew that, but it was nice to hear that from an outside consultant that we need to have more full-time mental health professionals, a more well-staffed and resource accessibility office. Sorry, I'm coming out with a very terrible cold. So we are working on all of those things. So if you have suggestions, connections, resources, ideas, please either contact myself or David Clark, and we would be happy to connect, with those people. We really want this place to be a place that is somewhere students can go for all types of assistance: career closet, food pantry, SNAP benefits, immigration assistance. We have a call tomorrow with a child care resource, so we can refer students out who need child care. So it's really going to be a one-stop shop in person. Questions?
So I wanted to address her specific question about what would happen if you had a panic attack in the middle of your class when this is going on.
Can you come up and do this? So it's on
All right. So I wanted to just address your question specifically about what happens if you're in class and this is going on and you have a panic attack. What I will suggest is to the teachers just to try and reach out to myself or Dr. Dannon or even Marie so that we can talk you through. About a month ago, a student that was in North Hudson had a panic attack in with an advisor, and the advisor called me, and honestly, by the time I would get to North Hudson, she might have been in a full-blown panic attack. So what I did do was I spoke with her over the phone, and we talked about ways to employ good, healthy coping tools, which is, I'm sure if you've been in therapy or have someone, you learn those things. And I was able to de-escalate the situation, and I was able to meet with her the next day about what was going on. Dr. Sheila and I have been talking about this. They were actually talking about maybe getting like a little Skype so they could actually see my face and I could see the students, so that we could provide a little added extra support. So you can also look at the website as well. I have coping tools and apps that you guys can go right on your phone to kind of center and redirect to get away from what's going on. Okay?
Janine?
Yeah. All right. Hi, everybody. Thank you. Okay. Hi, everybody. I first want to say I know, Dr. Reber, that you care very much for our community, and we really appreciate that. And I think you are definitely implementing new and more secure methods. And the other thing I wanted to say was thank you to Desiree for announcing the interfaith session last night. I did go, and it was a wonderful, wonderful event. The one area that I'm not going to repeat what everybody else said, and I think I'm positive that as a team you're working on thinking about what happened and moving forward and improving. And I would like one area I think that you need to work on the most is the outsource, our security guards. and the in-source team, because they were terrified, and they are sitting ducks. They have no security, the door is open, and yes, we ask for ID cards, but we have no way else of monitoring these, our people who are entering all the different buildings. So I think, without overstepping my bounds, because I know you have lots of experience, Mr. Quigley, but I think that is an area, a primary area of improvement, to make them feel good and secure in their jobs, and then they can make us feel secure in our jobs.
This is definitely something we are going to be
Thank
following
you.
up on. Absolutely.
Hi, I'm Vivian Ray from Human Resources, and I'm sitting here thinking, I'm a veteran, and I have experience firing and teaching other people how to fire an AR-15. And I'm thinking I'm tough. But when stuff like this happens, I'm a mom, I'm a daughter, and I get scared. And I know many of you, I'm hearing it in your voices and with our students as well, when these kinds of things happen, when we don't have control, we get scared. And whether we realize it or not, it was a traumatic event for us, whether we were involved directly or not. We have an employee assistance program that's available 24/7. There are licensed clinicians that are available to talk with us about anything. I called them myself last night because I was worried about my daughter. I couldn't find her for a couple of hours. She doesn't come into Jersey City for anything. My mother in Baltimore, when anything happens in the world bad, I have to call her so she knows I'm okay. Right, moms and dads? Yes. Brothers and sisters, we reach out for the people that we love. So you're traumatized by this event whether you admit it or not. So it's time for us who think that we're tough and we can handle anything to admit that we were hurt by what happened to our sisters and brothers up the road. Bad things are happening in America right now. And we are worried about your safety here at the college, and we're addressing those things. But for your mental health safety, please pick up the phone. It's E4 Health. The students don't have access to that, but they won't ask you if you're a student. I would ask you to use the services that are here, but if it's in the middle of the night and the service is not available, call E4 Health. You can Google them and talk about anything to your heart's content. They actually do formal counseling over the phone. Is 45 minutes. They refer you to either someone who is close by you in terms of a public service, or if you have your insurance information, they'll refer you to a clinician that's a part of that. But we're traumatized by this. Let's admit it, let's call, let's get help. For those of you who support our students, you are particularly, I heard our professors talk about having to do triage in the room for the kids that are really kind of upset. You need to call somebody and talk to somebody as well, because that event affected you. So for daughters, sisters, brothers, mothers, we all belong to somebody. This event was traumatic for all of us. Please do reach out for help.
Absolutely. One of the things I want to mention is we recently, many of you participated, including students, in our climate diversity survey, and we now have all those results. And in fact, at 2 o'clock today, the President's Advisory Council on Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion is going to be looking at those results, and we're then going to be making them available college-wide and having discussions like this about what they mean. The survey asked a variety of questions about campus safety, which we'll share with you. But one of the things that really came front and center to me with the survey, with the results, is when people talk about they had a concern and they were asked, where did you share that, or where did you go to share that? It's all over the board. There's no, so one of the things we're working on right now with our consultant, with the whole team of folks that are trying to help us improve, is having one clear place or a few clear places that you can go to report a concern. If there's a behavior you're seeing, an easy way to report that so that it will be seen immediately and can be acted upon, and we can be more proactive. We're also in the process of redoing the whole website, as many of you know, and we're going to make sure that that website also makes it much easier and user-friendly to get to where you need to get when there is a serious concern of any kind.
Will it be voice accessible?
So my name is Catherine.
I'm sorry?
Will it be voice accessible?
Will it be voice accessible? I think we will. You raise a good point. It has to be accessible. Yeah.
I'm a part-time employee, and so I would really echo some of the communication issues, especially since a lot of part-time employees have all different kinds of schedules. So we come in at lots of different times and in lots of the different buildings. And it's been my experience, not just with this event, but with many things, that I don't always know what's going on. And I read everything, including the board minutes, because I'm a former publisher, so I try to stay informed. So when I was hired, I opted in to get alerts on my phone, and in the 3 years that I've been here, I've never gotten one. So I think that for not just really huge catastrophic events, which are unfortunate that they do happen, but even for something as a snow day. And I would love to get an alert on my cell phone telling me what's going on in the campus, come in, don't come in, just the information. I was already very informed. I was on my phone looking at websites. I'm very connected in the community. I know Steve personally, so I personally felt okay that I knew what was going on, but it didn't come from this source, and I would have liked to have known what was going to happen on campus. Were we going to stay open? Would it be okay to leave if I didn't feel safe? Like, all of those things, I think, could have been communicated better, not only in the email that was sent out, but even just getting some text alerts saying, we know that this is going on, we're aware, and you're safe here on campus.
Sure.
Just that language alone would have made the people feel safe.
Jack, do you want to respond to the, ask Jen also?
Just very quickly, I'm not an IT guy, I'm not an app guy, okay? So I would ask you to check, would you make sure that you're properly registered with ConnectEd? Because we have sent out notices in regards to snowstorms. I've sent out a test message to make sure. So maybe there's a disconnect there on your particular device, and we certainly want to address that. And those of you that don't know what ConnectEd is, I've heard a couple of people say that they didn't know about the green lock or whatever. So we're in college, I'm going to give you a homework assignment. Please go to the security portal, the page. There's a lot of information on there. There's information about medical emergencies, where the location of the AEDs are, evacuation plans in case of fire, and various other threats. There's a ton of information on there. There's a video about active shooting and Project Greenlock and a lot of things. Please visit it. We started a bicycle registration program I've got 2 bicycles registered. Okay, so.
Where's the link located?
What's that?
Where's the link located? Because my Hudson's
It's on the portal.
My Hudson departments go to security.
Okay, I'm going to ask, Jenny, can you send a link to the whole college community?
Sure.
We will do that after this, to get to that information.
Yeah, and I'll also send it for ConnectEd too. Kat, with ConnectEd, everyone is registered through their work email, but you could go into the site and put all your other phone numbers you wish to be reached at, whether it's your personal cell, but I'll send you the link to that too, or walk you through. Thank you. Okay.
Jen, can you speak more generally to how you attempt to communicate out of your office more urgent emergency messages? What things do you do?
Sure. So as soon as we get the notice of what message we need to push out, we send a college-wide email. We post it to the portal. We put it on social media. We put it on the website. And when it's a snow emergency, that it's like that we have to push out as an emergency, we use ConnectEd.
Jack also has the capability of sending a message himself.
Right, so if there was an urgent issue, an immediate threat or something we had to act immediately to, I can push out that message college-wide. Okay? I'm not one to cry wolf, but if there's a real emergency, I will put it out.
And also on my team too, Desiree is trained and Jessica is trained to do all the messaging too.
Hi, Alana Winslow, business faculty. Some of you know I'm an Orthodox Jew, proudly been here almost 10 years, and I felt a little disappointed that this wasn't acknowledged as a hate crime in any communication or statement from the school. I think it needs to be part of the discussion. I appreciate that you acknowledged that today. There's been video circulating on social media of people speaking about it in a very anti-Semitic comments. I don't know if any of you have seen that. It's horrifying to see down the road from my work hometown where I travel to. So I just want that to be part of the discussion.
I wholeheartedly agree, and I think that it needs to be spoken of in an outright manner, and that we need education and speakers to speak out on anti-Semitism.
Absolutely.
And is it on our campus? Is it present? Yes, it is.
Yes.
I've had casual responses and remarks from every level of this college over the last 20 years. And it's not the time for us to be silent on this. So I totally support it.
And Elena, you know, one thing, on Tuesday, it wasn't yet clear, but you're absolutely right. We should have sent something earlier in terms of that message, which is absolutely important. When we share the results of the climate survey, you're going to see feedback on questions about perceived insensitivity in every possible area. And then I'm hoping we can have more dialogue also about it, but thanks for making that point. I don't know who's next. Okay, yeah, I know that.
Hi, I'm available full-time staff here. Just a couple of comments. Now hearing that that you can send out messages on your own without waiting. I feel like this should have been a situation where a message was sent immediately. We didn't need the facts because I'm pretty sure I was aware of it. I was watching the news. I have computers. I have phone alerts. To just say we're aware of the situation, we'll keep you updated on, protocol and all types of information. That's all we needed to know within a couple of minutes after it happened, because there's no reason why it's on CNN and it's not on my phone. And I live in Jersey City. I live in the Greenville area, like 3 blocks away from where it happened. I have family members that were calling me. I couldn't get in touch with my sister. I walked those blocks. I went to Sacred Heart. I graduated from there. This is my neighborhood. So I just feel like we should have had more communication in regards to that manner and instant communication. I don't feel like there should be something like, okay, what is St. Peter's doing? So we send the same message because we're not St. Peter's, we're Hudson. So we should have just had, we're aware of the situation and we're monitoring it, and then send out a formal email, whether it's an hour later, with more information.
I think we're acknowledging this, but Jack's, I do want to clarify also the staff's benefit here. Jack's responsibility is to make sure the campus is safe and to make sure we're doing everything we need to ensure the safety of the campus. And if he sends out a message, it's going to be about that. Our communications team, including myself, need to be responsible in terms of some of those preliminary messages, just letting people know it's being monitored, etc.
Okay, and then just a few more suggestions with the communication. I feel like in the email it should have been discussed, if you're traveling in that area, you're coming from that area, you're a student, maybe don't come, or maybe take proper precautions, because I work in the admissions office. Most of our calls from 12 p.m. up until 5 p.m. were about A, why are we not shut down? B, I don't feel safe coming there. C, why is my student, my daughter, my child, I'm not sending to Jersey City, all these other things. So I feel like if most of our staff, most of our students, we live in an urban community, they're coming from that area. So it's going to take, but they don't want to come all the way over there. And I have some friends who did come, who live in a Greenville area and had to travel all the way over here. And it was just horrific because traffic, all the roads were closed. And I feel like that's also something that should be stated. There was like a gridlock that that was posted online of which streets were closed. We should have been aware of that because I had to travel home. So I had to figure out which back roads, which roads to use. Because it takes me 10 to 15 minutes to get here without traffic. I didn't get home until an hour and 45 minutes later at 5 o'clock to just, those are messages, we're getting messages about road closings for the VMAs. We should get road closings for, okay, these blocks are certainly closed. In this area, please be safe if you're traveling over there, if you're coming from there from class, just have communication.
I guess one of the things I'm going to share is I appreciate that, and we certainly want to do the best we can in that regard. I do, and I've had experience, unfortunately, with crises like this in my career elsewhere. One of the things I will remind all of us is this requires everyone in the community. It requires everybody's involvement and vigilance. It's not just, we're not going to be in a position to ensure everybody's safety and full information, from a few offices. We have to all be doing this together. A lot of that information that you're talking about, we were learning from the news. I mean, we didn't have all that, that information was coming out to the whole community as we were getting it at the same time. This isn't to in any way excuse the desire to do better and learn from this, but I will say to you, we have, as we've discussed already, we have a seasoned leader in the area of campus safety and security. We have personnel at every entrance. Will we do more training? Absolutely. We have a full-time staff of trained folks. We're working on adding staff to provide support. So there's a lot of stuff going on here. But in the final analysis, we need everybody to play a role. So when you see a concern, you need to let us know that as well. I can tell you, I didn't get any calls, which I shouldn't have assumed that there weren't concerns, but I didn't personally get any calls. I think one of the things we really do need to do is have this mechanism that allows everybody to very quickly get the information to others. But we also each have to take responsibility. If you feel unsafe, either be proactive about it or do what you think you need to do, and not just rely on waiting to hear. Because when these situations happen, they're fluid, they're constantly changing, you're getting conflicting and sometimes incorrect information. And so it really takes a community. Sir, you had your hand up, go right ahead.
Yes, I did. My name is Jonathan Bowman. I'm one of the academic advisors here. I understand that you said that we have to take responsibility and take our precaution. At 12:30 when this happened, when I found out that it happened, I reached out to our assistant director, Gretchen, to see what to do about it. She made calls, no one was to be found. As you know, you did put the message out, but I didn't find out till 3 o'clock, so we did try. Phone calls were being made, but no one had answers for us, and that's concerning. Especially being born and raised from Jersey City. Like she iterated, I graduated from Sacred Heart. That happened a block away from me. I know officers that were out there. My mother was actually driving out there. I had to call her so she could redirect it back to a safe spot. I just feel like that's the concerning point right there. And by you saying take responsibility, I don't feel comfortable.
Please don't misunderstand me. I'm not suggesting it's not we, they, but we all have to be.
But I understand that, but we tried.
Okay.
I could say my office tried and we didn't get an answer. We have students calling us concerned.
So we need to know who you talked to. I would like to know more about it. Like,
okay.
Who didn't answer? And,
they just didn't know it was happening or what kind of message could have went out, what can be said. Because students were calling us at a rapid pace and we had no answers for them. And students get frustrated when you can't really give them an answer, but especially when it's something like this, when they're getting messages like this from news or social media or anything like that, and we can't give them an answer about what's happening. And this is a community college, so basically our community.
Yeah.
And I do take pride in that, knowing that I come to and from that area. I was affected. I had to redirect to get back home and things like that.
So between 1 and 3 on Tuesday, what I'm hearing we should have done is we should have been getting messages out saying, please know we are monitoring this by the minute. There is no evidence of any imminent danger to this campus. If that changes, we will let you know. Beyond that, we didn't know a lot. As you know, all of it was unfolding, and I think you can even speak to the fact that you were getting conflicting information.
Yeah, when I made my earlier comments, I told you some of the sources that we were getting information from. some of the information was contradictory to other information, or was coming from a different perspective, and it had to be decided. You know, I can't call the Jersey City Police every 3 minutes and ask them for an update. They're busy. You know what I mean? So we had gotten information, and it was put on the news first. There was 3 suspects. Then that turned out not to be true. Then they were reported to be juveniles. That turned out not to be true. Okay, and you have to understand, social media aside, you have to understand the news cycle, in a little bit. When reporters are there on scene or nearby the scene, and they don't have anything concrete to talk about, they got to fill the airtime. So they're going to go into their own kind of experiences, their own speculation, their own theories about it. None of them were at this point turned out to be, most of them, let me say, turned out not to be true. Okay, so we have to make sure, and again, we admit that there was a delay. I think we've discussed that enough times. But we have to make sure that the information we put out is reliable and it stays credible throughout the event.
I'm Director of Cultural Affairs. I'm a longtime Jersey City resident. I'm not trying to be disrespectful in any way. What I'm having trouble understanding is how my daughter's school was on John F. Kennedy Boulevard at 1 o'clock or 12:30, I don't even know what time it was. She called me. She called me hysterical, telling me that they were just been locked down, and they were then in what they called a shelter space. That went on until about 4 o'clock. And I'm just having trouble understanding how her school could be so organized, and her school could know, and nobody knows here. And that's where I had trouble with this myself, like feeling safe here, because her school seemed to have it all down. And on top of that, you know, they didn't stay in lockdown the whole time. They had levels. And it was really organized. And if we can't wait for Jersey City to come, the police to guide us, maybe we make a few levels of our own. We have level red, we have level yellow, we have level green, whatever it is. And we decide what safe precautions we can take to help us, I don't know, navigate through this, right?
You make a very valid point. However, there was no need on this campus to react in that way. This campus was not threatened.
Jack, Jersey City Board of Education. My name is Jenny Quan. I have 2 kids in the public school system, and you know, I started getting calls at 2 o'clock. My kids go to PS 37 downtown Hamilton Park, and from then on, I started getting a first call about 2 o'clock saying that there was an incident in Greenville. They were safe. Immediately at 2:26, it said lock down the entire Jersey public schools. That's 40 schools from Greenville all the way up to the Heights. So that indicated to us that this was a very serious. And all the teachers I talked to said this had never happened in 20 years. So I was curious because, weather-wise, we seem to follow the Board of Education, but in this case, there was a complete disconnect. And I saw that, and I didn't know how to react. I just knew how to react, with the public schools. If it was that serious to close schools from Greenville all into the Heights, I don't understand how we could have been exempt from that. So those are my questions as a parent, as a resident in Jersey City, and someone, we had staff who were caught in Communipol when this happened, didn't know whether to return to campus, didn't know where to go. They were told, just get out of Jersey City as fast as possible. So that's sort of I'm sort of echoing Michelle. I don't understand the disconnect. I know we're very generally good about talking to the Jersey City Board of Education. In this case, I don't know why we did not decide to go in that direction.
Let Jack look at me.
We were on the BBC. I mean, this wasn't news that was just local news. I mean, I was listening to the BBC in Jersey, so this was an elevated issue. And I would argue that we were under danger here. I mean, I really would. I don't consider myself an alarmist, and I've worked in lots of different cities and I've been in lots of different places, and I would argue that in this scenario, we were definitely, and I think the world agrees with us,
under, right, siege in some way or another. We didn't know how many people had guns. They were saying they're different assailants. I mean, the news went on and on about it.
To address your issue, Jenny, we were in communication with the Jersey City Board of Education. Who made that decision and what rubric they used to come to that conclusion? I don't know. I can't address it. Clearly, the public schools in the area of Greenville should have been secured. Okay. Reason to lock down schools in the Heights or in Secaucus? I couldn't imagine why at that point, because it creates a lot of angst amongst the other people. Okay. We have a bad situation. We don't need to make it worse. Okay. So, in my professional opinion, this campus was not threatened under those circumstances.
So
that was a recommendation I made to senior.
So it was a recommendation made that rightly or wrongly, Jack's feeling was that it would be less safe to lock down here. You know, we can talk about whether that. He's already explained the rationale. I do wish we had been out right away and talking about, you know, what we're doing to monitor this. Yes, you've been wanting to say something.
Thank you. I came out from behind the column because I wasn't sure. You'd have a disembodied voice. I'm Professor Belen Boyer. I teach religious studies in the philosophy humanities department. Unfortunately, I was disappointed this semester. Student Activities had planned a field trip to the Auschwitz exhibit at the Museum of Jewish Heritage, and it had to be canceled for lack of interest. It was published in the Student Activities Guide and everything. And I was a fellow at the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum in 2008 representing Hudson County Community College. Those of you who are too young to remember the Dot Busters incident in Jersey City in the 1980s, that was a set of hate crimes against the South Asian community. And just after that, the New Jersey State Legislature passed a body of legislation that required teaching on genocide and hate crimes from K through 12. And there was actually a teachers institute here at the college to teach about that curriculum, but it was an unfunded mandate. So it faded after a few years. Now, I am of a certain age, and when I was in high school, the elders, our parents, had been through World War II, and they saw what it was like when the public became aware of the liberation of the camps. And they made darn sure in the public school system in Illinois that high school students had a full curriculum that included a lot of Holocaust studies. When I was in high school, we saw the film Night and Fog, which is in the college library. And if you haven't seen it, you should see it. But don't plan on eating anything while you're watching it. It's a film the Nazis made to show what they were doing. We saw that in high school. Now, these things like unfunded mandates, they faded out. And my students, when I asked them about have they had any Holocaust studies in school, oh, a little bit, but they really have not had it. So I feel like I just want to say on the subject of hate crime education, all of us who plan our curricula can keep that in mind going forward to support things that the college wants to do, like field trips to the Museum of Jewish Heritage, and make sure that people are signed up for those things. So thank you very much. I'm an adjunct professor, and there's a lot of us, so it's hard to do that kind of training thing with all of us all at once. I realize it's like herding cats, but maybe it needs to be another layer of the adjunct online training. You know, there's 2 of those now. Maybe there needs to be a 3rd one on detecting hate crimes before they happen. So thank you very much for letting me say.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Eric Friedman. If some of you don't know me, the Executive VP and Provost. And guess where I was when this was unfolding? I was in Philadelphia at Middle States, and the speaker was speaking on how to communicate during an emergency situation. That is exactly where I was. And My son works at something called the JTA, which is the Jewish Telegraphic Association, and it's basically the Reuters of all Jewish news, anything that's happening to or in the Jewish community globally. And within 30 to 60 seconds, he was texting me, and I sent a message here, making sure that, that Jack was up to speed. In response to Jenny and some of the others who passionately are talking about some of the depth and levels of the communication issue, Jack is responding from a particular perspective. Jack, as many people like Jack do, has an on-off and a black and white. And that's very good, because when his switch turns on, he goes into a mode that is to protect everybody, to make sure that everybody is safe. That's his primary concern. So Jack is probably not, I have a feeling that I'm going to be voluntold to be on this executive team that's looking at lessons learned and how to improve communications during emergencies. I hereby volunteer. But I imagine Jack will be providing information, but not actually doing the communication out to the college community members. And you're right, like, even if we don't have the details, here's some information on travel. The campus is safe, it's very timely. The more time that we give anybody in this room before a crisis and communicating about the crisis, the more angst, the more guessing, the more, just what the hell is going on. So I hear the president saying to this community that he is absolutely, absolutely dedicated to learning from this situation. We all knew that Jack had the black and white situation under control, that he was immediately able to tell us in leadership, and I was able to get a message back that the campus is safe, that this is X amount of distance from the campus, nobody's in a car traveling with a gun, but you had children, friends, relatives in the danger zone. And it's really, really, really just centrally important that we're communicating really clearly, really timely, and just over and over again, so everybody knows, is there a place to go if you need to be actually going to a place. I'm so looking forward to the new student center and having a student lounge and some other spaces like that. I do want to echo Alana that this is an attack on a particular community, very premeditated. And so there's a lot to reflect upon with the curriculum, with special events, with speakers. It's a particular community and it's targeted. I'm really, really proud of Jack and his team and the work that they do. But please do remember, Jack's operating in a very black and white world. That switches go on and he is in full action. I've communicated to Jack at 4 in the morning. When I start to get a concern, Jack has all these connections to these really strange weather services that like regular people don't get access to. It's like the dark web of weather. So he's able to tell me, no, calm down. It's not going to be black ice in the morning. It's going to be 38 degrees, not 32 degrees. So he's on, whether it takes 24 hours, a day watching something, he's on. But I do, just from my perspective, want to assure everybody that there's a lot of lessons to be learned here. But first and foremost, our goal is to have a safe campus, a safe environment, and if we're seeing that there's communication processes that really need to be improved, you got to know we're going to be all over that. So we hope for all of you and your loved ones that that this becomes a learning experience and not just an enduring sense of disturbance. And I look forward to learning as a community how to really become a best practices school in this regard. Thank you. Thank you.
We're going to talk one more and then we're going to...
Right here, a student over here has hand up.
Okay. Oh, there's a student here, and then I'll come back.
Hi, I'm Coral, cheerleader here at Hudson County, and the theme that has been repeating is communication. And my concern is, I'm a resident of Jersey City. I was at work at the time, and I have 4 children in 3 different public schools in Jersey City. And when I heard what was going on, I tried to get in contact with the schools. The lines were busy. I wasn't sure if they were safe, if they had already gotten on the bus to come home. So I think that the communication part is essential. It's important. Had something been communicated to us, it would have been okay. You know, I don't have to worry, because as a parent, my safety didn't matter. I was getting ready to leave and go check on my kids, not knowing that I wouldn't have been able to get to them. So the communication aspect is very important. So my question is, we're right here in Journal Square. The Sheriff's Department is literally right down the street from the STEM building. Is there any way that we can possibly form communication with them so that they can let us know what's going on? Because it's no way to prepare for this in the long run. We can, but right now, what if this was to happen again in a week or in 2 weeks or a month? Is there anything in place that can help us prepare for the next time?
Well, we were in contact with the sheriff's office, and like I said earlier, you know, we're talking to Jersey City. I can't call the sheriff's office every 2 minutes. They're busy. All right. When I spoke to the sheriff's office, I was concerned with this campus. Okay, the Jersey City Board of Education made their decision. Okay, and I really would have no way of knowing the status of the various public schools in Greenville. You know, if I had that information, I'd be happy to share it with you. But you know, they were locked down. We knew that, but I couldn't give you specifics on a school. And as a parent, believe me, I understand the angst. I'd want to know too, but I don't have that. I don't have access to that information. I have access to the information from the sheriff's office, Jersey City Police, etc., as to what's going on our campus. Okay, and I'm monitoring situations. Like I said, I know the probable likely outcomes and the tactics and the strategies used. So I knew that threat that was going on in Greenville was not going to migrate up to here.
Okay, and right here. Yes.
Hi, my name is Victor. I'm a student at Hudson County College. You know, from last Tuesday, it was nothing more but senseless, and I think, you know, what your speech said was like, for communication, all I can say is that like it's the thing you can do is like get community, because I know for a fact that all of us are a family. Because not only do we care for another, but we look after it. Because I know for a fact that like we just have to look at our surroundings and see if we're safe. Because I know for a fact that like from the time the shooting happened, I got a call from my mom, which I did not respond, and she was like, "Oh, are you just like go get out?" I'm like, well, I have contacted some of the people, like, all you would know in here, but like, oh, what's up with Weeyank? I know it's in Greenville, and I know we're in Journal Square. So my best bet for you guys is to like, if we not only do like active shooter drills, but you could do like lockdowns, like a performance, more of, I guess you could say, to like lock all the doors and then see if anyone can do something senseless, or I know it's hard to say out of my mouth, but it's coming from my perspective, and all I gotta say is that like, I know for a fact that like all of us are trying to be safe, and I don't know, it's too much on my it's hard to say about it before. I don't know.
Thank you, yes, and I think I'm going to have us conclude. This doesn't conclude the discussion, but I see folks leaving. We want to continue this discussion, and we will. But I do want to kind of piggyback on what you just said. You know, one of the things that I think's so palpable is that, you know, the worst of humanity always brings out the best of humanity. If you think of 9/11 and all the first responders. Yes. And reality is, everybody in this room cares about our community and about our students and wants to do everything we can to ensure the safety and well-being of our community. We need to keep working together to learn and grow, and we are a family. And so I thank all of you for coming today.
One thing I'd like to share, since we're talking about communication, they've announced the arrangements for Detective Seal. And the funeral is going to be at McLaughlin's.
Monday, 2 p.m.
Yeah, Monday, 2 to 8 is going to be the wake, and it's going to be at McLaughlin's. The funeral is Tuesday at St. Aidan's at 10 o'clock. So expect Journal Square Tuesday morning to be complete gridlock, complete lockdown. Figure out your travel arrangements from there. Unfortunately, I have been to far too many police funerals. You can anticipate up to 1,000 police officers, vehicles, bagpipe bands, etc., and in a procession down Bergen Avenue to St. Aidan's. So traffic is going to be an absolute mess, so start planning your travel now.
It'd be great if you sent out an announcement and posted that on our website.
Definitely. Thank you all so much. There are some flyers if you're interested on mental health counseling and wellness services. I'll leave them right here. Thanks.